right, wenches and hoes, welcome back to another exciting.
No hose anymore.
Well,
Hey, let's
that's
make it big.
exciting episode of the Wenches of Waydora, episode 8, season 3. Let's talk a little bit about what happened last week. Basically, you have been there's been a lot of teleporting and nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
You've gone to and fro. This time it was from the Phantasmo Hollow after completing your little Halloween story arc, and now you've teleported back to where you came from originally, which was the Underdark, and it's this area now that's kind of a rift in the material world. You're not really sure how it works, but the Nine Hells was involved, and when you teleported back, it was straight back to the Elder Brain's lair, where you guys killed the Elder Brain and also the Duke, Sir Charles Cunningrove, the Duke of Eastwind, who was really a mind flayer this whole time. You come back to this area. There's the hostages that you guys saved before but couldn't really escort back home. And when you came back, they seem to have been trapped in this cave, in this lair, due to natural means or other means, you're not really sure. But then a purple worm showed up, giant purple worm, gargantuan monstrosity that you guys banished and killed. And that's kind of where we left off. You guys made camp. You collected all the hostages, made sure everyone was okay. They looked very malnourished, very not in good shape, on the last of their rations that they were somehow able to scrounge up in the Underdark during their time. You're not really sure how much time they spent there. Could have been days, could have been weeks, but you managed to pull together the camping supplies, the dried foods, all the resources that you guys could muster and feed them for the night, as well as yourselves, and took a long rest after taking a little bit of a beating from the purple worm. And you rested camp for the night. Calliope had a funky dream or something of what she dreamt of was a beholder, quite literally the monster that is on the monster manual. This, in case anyone wants reference, Calliope, this is what you were dreaming of. Kind of popped up out of the hole, the tunnel that the purple worm created, and you were like, oh, and then you woke up pretty much. Realized it was just a dream. During Solara's watch, she kind of noticed that there's basically two ways out of here. One of them was caved in, the way you guys came in originally. Was caved in, you could blast your way out. The other way was through the Purple Worm's tunnel. You guys decided to go through the tunnel. You traveled for several hours after having a conversation with the leader of this hostages group, who they kind of reluctantly agreed to travel with you. They realized they didn't really have a choice, but traveled through this tunnel. Finally, at wit's end, one of the hostages, fell over, had a seizure. You guys tended to him. Things were looking grim for you guys, but then a group of dwarves, excavating dwarves, were able to find you. Just happened chance, and were able to pickaxe their way through the side of this purple worm tunnel, and they were led by none other than Trevok Holderheck. If you guys remember Trevok, he was the advisor to Sir Charles Cunningrove, the Duke, aka the Client, aka the Mind Flayer. He goes by many aliases, but now he's dead, so thank goodness, and good riddance. But
now he's dead.
Yeah, he was the Dwarven advisor back when you guys met him, and you met the Duke, who you weren't sure who he was at that time. He claimed to have been mute, so Trevok had to basically speak on his behalf. Spent a lot of time away from the city, not really sure, but Trevok was the advisor to him, so naturally he was searching for not only the hostages, but the Duke, because he hadn't returned. So he had a lot of questions for you guys. You guys briefly gave him the debrief of what kind of happened. He was like, hold on, slow down, before you tell me anything more, we gotta take this to the council. And he mentioned the Council of Moradin, I believe. I don't know if I gave you that name last week, but in your conversation with him, he would have said that. The Council of Moradin, he's like, we gotta go take this to the council. Okay, I froze for a second, I'm back. Basically, led you guys, he finished pickaxing out, the hostages ran free, ran back up. They led you guys back up through the entrance of the Underdark where you guys originally entered. Anya got in that rock breaking contest with one of the dwarves who was slowing you guys down a lot when you guys were chasing the client in there in the first place. But as you were welcomed back, Trevok had, as soon as he saw you guys, he sent a messenger to go tell people of your return and the return of the hostages. As you guys came back, there was an impromptu festival held. A lot of people were interested in your return. A lot of people crowded the streets and flooded the streets of Eastwind.
Parade.
And there was fanfare playing. It was led by this tiefling bard who was very full of himself, very good bard voice, singing about Eastwind and brothers and sisters linking in arms and blah, blah, blah. And it was all great. Valdrick especially was loving it, being a bard. She was like, oh my gosh, fanfare in our favor. And then all of a sudden, explosion. Boom. You guys just can't get away from it. You can't catch it. Well, you did catch a long rest, kind of technically a break. But you can't catch a break. You got no rations left. You just want to have a normal encounter, and then there's an explosion. So naturally, you guys, being the heroes that you are, go running to the explosion. You run up the streets, up the grand staircase of Eastwind. Think of it, if you remember, Eastwind's kind of laid out like San Francisco, but very medieval, and everything's made out of bronze, intricately carved and created by the dwarves long ago. You guys got that history lesson. But up the streets you go to Luminara Plaza, basically town square, and there's an explosion at one of the vendor carts, and most people were running and screaming from it. It was a gory scene. There's bits and pieces and blood everywhere. You follow the smoke and you go to the ground zero, and you do some investigating. There's still some survivors that are screaming out for help. So some of the carts caught on fire. So some of the shop owners came out and were eventually created an assembly line of water buckets, and you guys kind of helped in, did some medicine, helped put out the fires. In the meantime, I believe it was Anya did a lot of investigating and found that there was a severed limb that had the number 11 branded into the skin, into the ankle region. Couldn't translate it at first, but realized it was infernal, so gave it to her friends who could speak infernal, and they realized it was the number 11 branded into that limb. And last but not least, there was a shred of a fragment of parchment that Anya found. It looks like it was some sort of list. Some of the numbers and names were cut off, but basically it had numbers, I think it was like 6 through 12, and each one corresponded to a city around the entire continent of Waydora. And that is where we last leave off. As we fade this out. Everyone can hear this music, correct? I just faded it out, but...
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So much of the emergence kind of has subsided, and now it's sort of putting out the small fires. Smoke is still rising, but the immediate threat, the immediate danger is over. There's still people in massive pain, but people are now tending to those who need tended to. And it's a pretty shocking scene that you guys have found yourselves in. You know, investigating, perceiving your surroundings, you see finally Trevok and the Dwarven guards running up the streets behind you to see what was going on. They're dwarves, so they have little legs. So they made it there as fast as they could, but they kind of break through the crowd, and Trevok is, looking around, and runs up to you guys. What happened? What happened here?
Pipe bomb sort of situation at that cart over there. Not great. I mean, I'm trying to like help people at the same time as I'm saying this to him, like help people up, put out fires.
As you're like running around, you're kind of like half talking to him. He's trying to like, follow you around and asking questions. And he's like, "Did you see anything?"
I'm gonna field that to Anya. She's the one that did the big investigation.
We found some tiefling body parts. Which we have come across different groups of tieflings who have had ill intentions. So, yeah, we're not sure why they're attacking, but we believe that this is connected to other cases of bands of tieflings attacking.
As you say tieflings 3 or 4 times, he kind of side-eyes Solara and takes a step back.
Not this tiefling. Not this one.
And he looks back at you, and he says,
"Yeah, I'm like, it's not me, man."
I'm gonna show him the leg too. I'll show him the leg with the 11 on it.
Okay. As you're picking up the leg, he says, "Guards, fan out! Lock down the gates!" And you show him the leg.
And I'll say they'll have this symbol branded on them.
What is this?
Well, the
number 11 in Infernal. This is all of the bands of tieflings that we've come across and taken care of. Although this one took care of themselves, but we could have handled it.
There's been 11 instances of this, and you've taken care of each one?
This is the 3rd one we've come across. So we took care of 2 of them, and this one they seem to have been incompetent, so they did natural selection at work. So yeah, so all of the bands are marked with the same number, and in Infernal. So any tieflings you find, if they have this symbol, then they're part of. Maybe they're less incompetent than the others.
He kind of loses interest in the last part of that and spots a small tower and runs over to it, starts climbing the ladder. And you're just like, he continues climbing, and you see at the top of the tower there's this big horn, massive horn kind of attached to the top. There's a guard up there, kind of shoves the guard aside.
Condor calls parade.
And blows this giant horn at the top.
That's a good horn.
Echoes through, reverberates through the entire city. You guys being so close to it, and the city being so big, needs the big horn, needs a lot of noise. You guys being so close, it's almost deafening to your ears. Most of the people around you are putting up their hands to their ears, and he kind of stands after blowing it, takes in another deep breath.
I need a horn.
And slides down the ladder.
I think it would be good.
And comes running back to you guys and says, "I've called the emergency meeting for the council. You need to come with me."
We're not very fantastic at diplomacy. You know what? Yeah, we are. Let's go. Also, not to make anyone alarmed, but when we went to Dread Island, there was a lot of the tieflings and a lot of the burning down. And then in Phantasmo, there was a whole band of them. And I do think it's a little strange that there was only one, and he only blew himself up over there. And I feel like maybe we should maybe be a little on edge.
Walk and talk.
Cautious.
And he starts leading you up.
And we haven't even sorted through the bodies. There could be more.
You guys froze, but you're back.
Okay.
I said, I mean, we haven't even sorted through the bodies yet, so there could be more. We just haven't found them.
He says, walk and talk. And he starts leading you up the grand staircase, even further up from where you were. And you guys are kind of talking to him on the way. Yeah, you guys can continue your conversation if there was more you wanted to say.
So, Dread Island burned down. Led by vengeance, mind you. Salt Marsh, who knows? Probably should be close to next on our list. Phantasmal Hollow, they attempted to burn to the ground, but we did stop them, and that's good. Southwind, Chonbu, Eastwind, Liminal Plaza incident, not great, but maybe that's it. Maybe that's what they did here. It was just a one-time thing, a little explosion. Not that any explosions are particularly little.
So why would they completely burn down Dread Island and only go off with one explosion?
Yeah, kind of my thing. Also, a lot of this list is unintelligible.
True. We don't know what else could have been hit or was hit.
Yeah, is there any way to know, anybody hear any rumors about anything big happening, I don't know, in Saltmarsh, Southwind, Chonbu, Northwind, do you not know anywhere else really big explosions?
Or do they only attack after someone teleports there?
Oh.
They're monitoring it, and then when someone teleports, they...
But when we arrived in Dread Island, they were already burning it down.
It's fair. Although we were inside gathering all your things, so...
But we were in Phantasma for about a day, if not more.
But time travels oddly in Phantasma.
That's true. But why wait until someone travels in?
Isn't that what draws them? Is the...
Maybe.
Isn't that what... Wait, do we know that, or is that just Solara?
I think Solara.
Yeah, Solara communicated that.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
I definitely would have.
I thought that was only with the map. I thought it had to be the map. If you use the map,
and that's why they wanted the map.
That's why they want the map.
Gotcha. Okay.
The map.
Right. So,
Map.
which, yeah.
Okay, you guys, we're getting close. I don't know to what, but we're getting close to something.
Oh, that's spooky.
I'm just imagining this dwarf
Very.
walking in front of us and all of us in the back just whispering back and forth at one another.
I've got my notebook out. Pushing things at it.
Solara, make an intelligence roll real quick. Just a straight roll.
How smart are you, Solara?
Yeah, how
I'm
smart are you,
not.
man?
He's literally
Base
got
level.
a +1.
It's basically to see if you can recall some knowledge.
Be a 13.
He was so pretty.
You're trying to... You guys are having this conversation. Solara's trying to rack her brain about what exactly Vengeance said, or Cabris, whoever you want to refer him as.
Cabe.
What exactly... Cabe, yeah. What exactly he said about the map and the rules of it. Did we freeze? Are we back?
Almost,
Yeah.
but you're
That was
fine.
wild. You only froze, but Charlotte still moved.
Stupid. I don't know what's going on. The rules about it, something about teleporting, the red X's. You're trying to remember what it says.
Wait, I've got this somewhere.
You have key points: red X's, teleporting,
Danger.
demon hunters. Yeah. You remember the word demon hunters? That phrase that he used. It was dangerous to teleport. Yeah. You're not really sure how it all connects and what it means, but...
Can Valdric feverishly go back through her notebook? Because I have this in my notes, actually.
Yeah, so whenever I gave you guys those at the beginning of Season 3, that was... I don't know if I ever did this scene, but that was... You guys pretty much woke up from a long rest and received these books... magically from these blank notebooks
Yes.
from
Do you
the
remember
Sad Father. Satisfather gifted these down from the heavens.
They told us that the map is a portal to many places, as well as like a hit list, and the two of them were going to investigate the red X's on the map, but that we couldn't go with them because it was much too dangerous.
I feel like we could have handled the danger better than them, but
I feel like we entered more danger.
well, that's fair. I feel like
I'm
they
just
should have
saying.
stayed with us, honestly.
They really should have thought about that before they sent us to the Tremors, but that's neither here nor there.
But they're strong men. They can walk on
I tried to see if they had another copy of it, but that's the only one.
Maybe they should have just like stole it from.
it. Well,
Maybe.
Yeah. Solara could have.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Anything fancy is fun. Just distract me a little bit, and Nani will go grab it.
With your bunker honkers.
Bonka hunkas.
Oh.
You gotta get your bunker honkers out sometimes.
Even better with an accent. Bonka
Take them all
hunkas.
about. You got a bunker honker.
So you guys travel several miles up this grand staircase, and
Oh my god, my legs are dying.
yeah, it's like I said, 45-degree angle, east, San Francisco type kind of hills. All of it completely man-made, or Dwarven-made, I should say. No natural things in sight. It's all structure. If it's not staircase, it's building. And let me pull up my little...
Is there poop on the streets?
There's not poop on the streets. It's pristine bronze. Not exactly high class, but more
They're not
like...
exactly like San Francisco. Got it.
Oh, okay.
No poop on the
Yeah, there's
streets.
no trolleys, no poop on the streets, but it's very, very well crafted. There's pillars and structures as you're passing by that, like I said, have just incredible detail carved into them that must have taken hundreds of years to construct. All pretty well preserved. As you guys continue, you finally, reach the top of one of these long stretches, and before you, in a kind of a partly cloudy part of the city, it's about 11 a.m. by the way. It's partly cloudy, a little overcast, but not exactly raining. You see this massive, grand structure in front of you, this majestic Dwarven-style cathedral. And it's got towers, it's hundreds and hundreds of doors and passageways upon layers of different stories and levels. And you see a grand entrance arc with two big stone doors, actually big bronze doors at the front, with torch sconces around. Very beautiful, very, very majestic. There's Dwarven guards, two on each side, that are a little bit more heavily armored than any dwarf you've ever really seen. And they stand at either side of the entrance. And Trevok finally gets to the top, a little winded, a little out of breath, but kind of pulls you all aside and says, I must warn you, before we enter that council, the council is not fond of non-dwarves. They're more traditional. I must advise you to speak when spoken to. But I will provide as much info as you have given me, and at which point I will ask you for a debrief. You must remain truthful. Remember, they are on your side. They might not seem like it, but they're on your side. You've saved lives today.
Yes, alright. I'm gonna lean in towards Anya and be like, how many dwarves exactly did we save from the place?
We saved 18 people, right? No, 16.
There were 16, most of them dwarves, not all dwarves, because this is still a mixed race city.
And Anya speaks.
Anya
Okay.
speaks dwarf. Okay.
I'll handle this.
And
God.
Trevok looks at you, Anya. Are you sure you can handle the pressure? There's a lot at stake here.
And I'll speak back in Dwarvish and I'll say, as an emissary and representative of the Jagmeister Guild, I can handle diplomatic conversations.
He puts his hand up on your shoulder and says, Vashkinarshkar.
Just gonna pat his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
then move his arm.
he kind of looks around. He strokes his beard a bit. All right. Turns around, nods at the guards. The guards kind of separate and swings open with all his might these two big stone doors. And you enter the cathedral, the Forge Heart Cathedral that he has told you the name of on your guys' way up. Let's get that ambience here. Just as beautiful as the outside is, the inside as well. Just lined with pillars and beautiful stained glass windows on what in real life would be about probably 4 stories high is where these stained glass windows are. Just perfectly placed so that no matter what time of the day it is, the sun is always permeating with peak amount of sunlight reaching in. And any part that's not lit is lit with torch sconces all around, archways, bronze structure, probably 10 stories high total. So hundreds of feet above you, and it kind of comes to an arc at the top. And lined on the sides of the hall are Dwarven guards, exactly the same dress and armor as the two outside standing guard. Kind of these bronze plate, very much untouched armor, bronze helmets, bronze great axes. And as Trevok enters, the second he steps foot, they all there's probably about 5 on each side, so all 10 of the guards kind of stomp their foot, and you hear just a resounding, like a military stomp as he walks in and guides you all in. And you're taking in all the sights, and there are 5 seats on this stage-like structure at the end of the hall. And there's probably a staircase that goes maybe 3 or 4 or 5 steps up until there's this platform with these 5 big throne bronzen chairs. There's dwarves sitting from left to right in royal garbs. Not much color to them. They're very much like grays and blacks and bronze and gold, silver kind of coloring. Not much, nothing eccentric like red or blue or anything. And they all sit on these seats, and there's 4 of them sitting in 5 of these chairs. And Trevok turns to you, kind of motions you guys to stop walking, and takes his seat in the last 5th chair. And they make a half circle. He doesn't sit in the middle one; he sits on one to the right, and begins talking. He says, "Brothers, there's been an attack on our great city. An explosion at Luminara Plaza." And you kind of look around. None of them really... It's not that they don't seem phased. They're just kind of like... not shocked. Not gasping. And one of them says... "An explosion? Of arcane nature?" And Trevok says... "A smoke powder bomb." And he kind of like... looks around, still trying to see, how they're reacting. "It could have been mishandling of material, but we are investigating. The Stone Guard have been instructed to search the radius. There's more." Duke Charles Cunningrow has been killed in the Underdark. And he motions to you. The 4 females I present before you were there to witness the event and are here to bring their testimony. The one sitting in the middle chair kind of has his hands like this with his elbows on the armrests, and he's kind of pivoting a bit, and he waves off Trevok at the end of the sentence and says, looks to the party. What is your involvement? And he's not really looking at anyone in particular, just at the 4 of you.
I'll step forward and I'll say in Dwarvish, thank you for allowing us to come and speak before you. We speak nothing but what we have seen, and we speak nothing but the truth. We descended into the Underdark to try to find the missing people who had been missing throughout Eastwind, and we found them enthralled by a mind flare, and we rescued them. And as we descended to the lair of the mind flare, your Duke was revealed to be the mind flayer, who's also been attempting to take control of Waydora, known as the Client. We had known him previously as the Client, but he was also masquerading as your Duke and had kidnapped all these people with nefarious plans. And so we killed him and brought the 16 hostages back with us.
And he kind of
nodding as if I understand.
He kind of looks to Trevok for confirmation. Trevok looks back at him and says, after you say 16 hostages, and then he says, what of this explosion in Luminara? What know you of this?
After we were rescued by Trevok and the rest of his miners, who did a great job finding us in the tunnels, we returned to the surface and were greeted with a parade and honor of sorts. And in the middle of that, we heard an explosion and made our way to Luminara Plaza, where we helped extinguish fires. We investigated, and in our investigation, we found a ledger that matched other groups of tieflings that we have encountered in different locations throughout Waydora. And this matched up with what we had seen before. And so it seems that it was a group of tieflings that had set off the explosion. We found tiefling body parts, and they were branded in a way that was consistent with other tiefling groups that we have eliminated and taken care of in our past adventures. And that is all the information we have right now. I know that Trevok is shut down the city in an effort to make sure that if there's any remaining, that they are found.
As you talk about the ledger, he kind of looks at one of the guards and motions. One of the guards comes over to you, takes the ledger. I'm assuming do you give it to him willingly? Takes the ledger from your hand. Did you pull out the ledger?
I didn't, but I can. And I'll say, I would like this back, but I can present this to you as evidence.
Yeah, he doesn't take it forcefully. He just takes it and is basically following the will of the dwarf, and brings it over to the dwarf in the middle. Kind of grabs it and looks over it and is listening to the rest of your speech as you talk. He's looking over it. And as you mention tieflings, you notice again he side-eyes Solara.
This is our friend Solara. She has traveled with us. We've traveled together for a while. She does not. All of the bands of tieflings that are listed in the ledger are branded. She is not branded. She has been with us, and she actually was instrumental.
Kalimvor as well.
She was instrumental in healing those who were injured in the Luminara Plaza explosion, as well as key in assisting the rescuing of the hostages.
Then she should have no problem in consenting to a search. Guards. And 2 more guards come over and grab Solara a little bit more forcefully and kind of roll up your sleeves as you're talking about branding. Roll up your sleeves and roll up and start searching. So you're willingly kind of showing. They're kind of twisting a little bit more forcefully. They're shorter than you, so 2 of them. One of them searching your right arm and your right leg, and the other one on the other side. And they both kind of nod at each other and they don't fix your sleeves or anything for you. They just look back at the middle and nod their heads, and
she would have consented. You don't need to force her. She would have consented.
Yeah.
He puts up his hand. The dwarf on the far right says, "Do you think these 2 events could be related? The Underdark, the Duke, and Luminara.
Oh, yeah.
What is the connection here?" One of them, the other one on the other side, the dwarf on the far left, breaks in and says, "Why are we expected to believe them?" At which point, Trevok breaks in, "Because what they say is truth. I was there in Luminara. They helped us. They aided us. They put out the fires. And before that, they were bringing back 16 of our 21 missing people, lovely citizens, back to us. I have reason to believe that they are telling the truth. We have no other choice." And they all just kind of are taking it all in, stroking their beards.
You can rest assured that we are actively also investigating what's taking place.
If there is a connection,
Yeah.
we'll find it.
Oh, we'll find it, all right.
When did you enter Eastwind? Sorry, that was the middle one's speaking, his voice. When did you come to our city?
We came here on a boat. Oh! Yeah. We first entered the city before we went down into the Underdark. After we freed some lovely women off of a boat where a bunch of sex slavers had stolen women from your city and had them on a boat called, I think, the Lusty Crustacean. I can't remember, to be honest with you. We did away with them quite quickly and brought back those that were stolen from Eastwind, which is how we got here the first time. Lovely city, by the way. We really did have a great time our first go-around before we went into the Underdark searching for the hostages.
He kind of
Yep. What was the lady's name that we saved? Because I'll say if you'd like to corroborate that story.
Go back.
Giselle Ritzk.
Oh,
I'll say you can confirm with Giselle Ritz, and she works at wherever we found her working.
As you say that, he nods to another one of the guards. One of the guards leaves the main hall back into another, through an archway, to another room, seemingly, and hears some hushed voices. Within about a minute, brings out Giselle Ritzk. She's dressed in full priestess garments. I don't have a picture prepared. Yes, I do. I'm a I am a good DM, and I am prepared. Where is Giselle? There she is. Kind of a nose pointed up, kind of like this, cute little button nose, blonde hair pulled back in a braid. Very much the same type of garments that Father Zathier would wear, but white and fitting for a lady. Hair tied back into a single braid that goes down her back. Human. A woman comes out and seems like she's kind of drying her hands. And the middle one, the middle dwarf, without looking at her, says, Priestess Giselle, do you recognize these women? And she looks and says, I do. Describe your meeting. These women saved me. Upon a ship. I was abducted. I was trafficked. I was almost... And she breaks for a second. They saved me. And they saved 2 other women upon that board as well. Aboard that ship as well. I would not be here if it were not for them. And he looks at you and kind of waves off. Thank you. Guard takes her back. She bows and she heads back into the back room. And Trevok then speaks and says, I understand what they are saying are heavy accusations about our Duke. But given his past behavior, brothers, you must understand that what they are saying has weight to it. The Duke's behavior as of late. He's been absent. He's been mysterious. Claims he's a mute. I see no loss of tongue or other iniquities upon his face. Always dealing in the shadows, this one. You know it. I know it. I would know it more than anyone, as his personal advisor. I'm inclined to side with him, as I have for years, but... I'm now questioning my allegiance and my actions for the past decade. We must converse. If you'll grant us a moment. And the 3 of them kind of lean in towards each other. And 2 of the guards kind of step in front and kind of walk you back a little bit.
I kind of lean in towards Solara and be like, really should have done a full strip search. I don't think we've ever seen your body, Solara. We really should be checking you for brands, shouldn't we? This whole place is very racist.
Pardon these words.
I know you think the entire time was like, you should pull the pants down, check a butt cheek brand.
No.
I feel like putting it on your arms and your legs are just the wrong places to put it, right? People are looking for them. Anya's been wandering around with a severed leg for the last couple of days. That's too obvious of a place.
It smelled horrible too.
These hushed tones.
Should we have a brand or like a tattoo? I feel like we should get a tattoo. Wenches of Waydora. Wow. Yeah.
Another time.
So good. I'm a little nervous. It's funny for a bar, large groups of people like this. I think it's the authority, really. Rooms full of drunk people are fine, but rooms full of
I gotcha.
people with their rules, it's not. So I had no idea what anyone was saying at all that entire time. I just was nodding. You sounded great, though, Anya. You speak Dwarvish more often. It was lovely.
Yeah, I should note, when they addressed you directly, they spoke in common. So as, you know,
I understood them, but I did not understand Anya.
Yeah, you're not really sure how they took Anya speaking Dwarven to them, but for the sake of the four of you, they spoke in common.
We're not dead yet.
When they pointed and kind of conversed with each other, they spoke in Dwarven. So Anya was able to pick up on everything, and anyone else who speaks Dwarven. Well, no, that everything that happened in the conversation.
Anya's like eavesdropping.
Yeah. No, you can't really hear what they're saying. All of a sudden, the doors behind you burst open. The big bronze doors. One of the guards kind of comes in and bows, says, "Elders, pardon my intrusion, but a courier brings urgent news from Westwind. You may want to grant counsel." At this point, the middle one stands up from his chair, which he's a dwarf, so it doesn't make that much of a difference in height. Stands up, and the guard takes this as a sign, kind of nods at him, turns back at the door, and motions his head inside, and a smallish, skinny, teenage humanoid walks in, or kind of runs in, out of breath, kind of a bit disheveled, hair, dirty blonde hair, kind of messy in front of his eyes, and he's trying to throw it back, and he's a bit out of breath, and he says, "Council, there's been a great awakening in the ancient Kraken in the west. Westwind was under siege by this monster." At which point Trevok kind of... "Westwind is surrounded by desert. Impossible!" The courier reaches into his satchel, pulls out a piece of parchment rolled up, and unrolls it. Starts reading it through. "It was lured through Kepling River by a water elemental during the Chase Chaos tournament. Many lives were lost before the Westwind military slayed the beast. Prince Sharpword was one of them." He unfurls it. "I come on behalf of the Harpers. They have equipped me with evidence of collusion between Prince Sharpword and Duke Cunningrow." And as he's saying all this, he's like marching down the aisle. At this point, all 5 dwarves stand up. And he pulls out another rolled up piece of parchment out of his satchel, puts the note back in, pulls out a different parchment, hands it very firmly and confidently, looking into the eyes of Trevok, hands it to him. And Trevok, mouth slightly agape, takes it as he's looking around at his brethren, unfurls it, and you can't really tell what is on it, or you can't really see any words from your point of view, but he kind of has this frustrated look on his face, and he's like, "It's enchanted. We need a wizard."
We
I
just so happen to have a wizard.
I'm a wizard.
Yeah, I don't think they would know that you're a wizard until you say that, and so yeah, they kind of.
I'm a wizard.
Yeah, they look. Trevok looks a little defeated and frustrated until you raise your hand. Looks around, back at the middle door for confirmation. Hands you the parchment.
I'll take it. Anything happen when I take it, or?
No, you take it, and you kind of unfurl it. You look at it. It looks like a blank piece of parchment. Go ahead and roll an Arcana check. This is a big plot point coming in from the Thursday night group, which is now disbanded.
I was gonna say,
Big
the
plot
Kraken!
point.
Westwind!
The chess chaos is basically D&D for March Madness tournament. That was the Quidditch tournament that I ran them through. Valdrick would probably, without any role, Valdrick would definitely know about Quidditch and like the tournaments held around every year.
I fucking love Quidditch. I gotta tell you about this one time I went out. It's not important right now. We'll talk
I
about
got
it
a
later.
22.
22, perfect. You definitely recognize this piece of parchment as a spell scroll of recording. Basically, you take the scroll, you enchant it for a certain amount of time, or so that something triggers it to start recording, and it basically records any sound, any noise, any conversation that happens within a certain radius. With a 22, that radius you know to be about 30 to 40 feet clearly. Anything after that, 40 to 60 is kind of muffled, and then anything past 60 you can't pick up. But yeah, as you look at it, you kind of angle it the right way. You pull out with a 22. You pull out your arcane focus, which you have a wand, right?
Yes.
Perfect. You have a wand. You kind of do a little ditty over it, and these words start appearing. And you come to the realization that it needs attuned only by someone with arcane power, such as a wizard like yourself. So you can choose. You have all this information, and now you can choose to do what you want with it. You don't see any words yet. It's kind of gibberish scribbling, but you know that something's there and something was recorded on it.
You said I need a tune for it to actually play the message?
You need to attune it. Which you say what?
I will relay that to everyone and explain what it is. I'm going to tell them, it's like, I need to attune to it to be able to bring forth the message for all of you. Do I know how long that's going to take, I'm assuming?
It's about a 10-minute ritual.
Okay.
They all have nowhere to be. So you can relay, it's going to take me about 10 minutes. So they kind of sit back down. They're definitely a lot more interested in what is going on. Kind of.
You guys are frozen, but that's good because there's so many notes happening. You're giving me so much information. I'm really I'm having to go.
Right. I know.
Alright, you guys are back.
Perfect. Yeah, you take your wand, and after about 10 minutes, the courier is still standing there, very, very curious as to what's happening. No one chews him out because he just brought in a bombshell. Take about 10 minutes carefully going over each line with your wand, almost like scraping dust away to leave room for magical substance. And once you get to the very last line, the parchment seems to keep unfurling magically as you keep going for each line, and it unfurls as long as it needs to until it finishes whatever conversation was just recorded. You do one last flick of your wrist, and audibly first visually, the parchment itself, the words glow and come alive as it goes from gibberish to common. You can read the words that are imprinted on this parchment, and audibly then you hear in a sort of ethereal tone this conversation. You hear someone say, "So, my old friend, I trust your stay here was most welcoming?" "It has been, although I'm afraid I can't stay for the conclusion of this tournament. I have business to attend to in Eastwind. I assumed as much, and I appreciate the journey you have made to our illustrious city. Tell me, have you made any progress on the search for the Sunblade? My men are on it. The band of misfits are headed straight into a trap. Once I have it, the election shall be mine for the taking, and we can finally repair the damage the Harpers inflicted on this great land. Agreed. However, you do realize we have a conflict of interest, don't you? Once I have the lamp, I can do anything, including taking over as the new emperor. Our endgame is for one of us from the Lord's Alliance, the real Lord's Alliance, to rule. Doesn't matter who. So I'm aware that we need to exhaust all our options and have a plan B in case plan A goes south. Well said. So what is the real reason you came to Westwind City? I can't imagine it's just to watch Quidditch. I'm fond of your company and all, but shouldn't you be aiding in the search for the Sunblade back in Eastwind? Sharpword, we are the 2 members within the Alliance who have the best shot at becoming Emperor. You know that if one of us succeeds, the other would be the complementary second in charge to ensure our policies make it through. I'm here to solidify that pact and make sure we have an understanding. You have my word. With the death of my Archmage, I'm in need of a number 2. Good luck, my old friend. And may the best man win. You're lucky your men are more capable than mine. Wiping out an entire druidic society and convincing a whole city it was a dragon attack? Nicely done. Means to an end. It was a long time coming for the Emerald Enclave, after the mess they caused in Arathia. Indeed. Oh, look! Looks like your Seeker made quick work of Mount Lanta. He certainly is a star. Hopefully this year we can actually make it past the Sweet 16. Well, I should be going. A good hunting. And to you. And I will place that conversation in the Winds of Waydora chat.
Has anyone ever heard of the Lord's Alliance?
That's what I was really about to ask that.
Baldric wants to go back through her lore and see if she can recall anything about the Lord's Alliance.
Also, druidic colony thing that was wiped out. So
Emerald Enclave.
Emerald Enclave.
I would think I'd be pretty familiar with most of the factions, Chris.
Yes, being that you work from a above the table organization, you have dealt with or done business with pretty much everyone except for the Zentarum, or at least so you think, because the Zentarum's definitely under the table. You hear them talk about the Lord's Alliance, and you're like, actually, everyone make a history check for me, because there's a lot of factions thrown around. See how much you guys know about it.
Ooh.
24.
I rolled a nat 20.
Naturally.
Okay, well, I got a dirty 20.
I got a 25.
Okay, you guys know
We know
everything.
so much.
We're so
Wow.
smart.
Yeah.
My entire life, it's fine.
All the information I'm about to spew out is common knowledge to the 4 of you. Whether it's from, like I said, above the table dealings with organizations, or Valdric limericks and certain songs, and scribbling down stories from different diplomats of the Lord's Alliance, and Calliope, your thirst for knowledge in libraries, learning about this stuff. Solara, your downtime conversations that you've had with Father Zathier, who's just a fountain of knowledge, telling you about the world before he sends you out in it. You know that the Emerald Enclave is a druidic society led mostly by elves. Most of their meats are in forests. You know, Arathia has the largest stretch of forest in all of Waydora, and that forest is titled the Elder Forest. It stretches all the way from the northwestern corner of Waydora all the way down almost to the Emerald Bridge. You know, the Emerald Bridge is the only thing that connects the mainland of Waydora to Westwind, which is this desert offshoot island. Much bigger than an island because it's hundreds of miles long, but it's a separate part with an ocean in between the mainland of Waydora. But anyways, this Elder Forest stretches for hundreds of miles up and down Arathia. And you know the Emerald Enclave is very present there. They have the Council of Elders that meets outside of Avley and Avalon, which is a council of I forget what they're called in D&D, but treants, tree people. Yeah, I forget what they're called in D&D, but they are basically this elder council that meets much like the dwarves before you. They make decisions for a lot of the druids there. You know that the Emerald Enclave at one time had a presence in Westwind, but over time, because of politics, because of war, was pretty much forced into a small family faction of Emerald Enclave that was all that was left, and they operated out of Westwind City. They have, you know them as the Stone Mares. You've sung Faldrick specifically. You've heard and passed along limericks of the Stone Mares. Mostly, I think, yeah, an elven family that was kind of out of place living in Westwind. No, I'm sorry, they're all human, living in Westwind, because Westwind is an all-human city. You've heard very racist things about Westwind, that it's all human. There's anytime there's any sort of politics or war, a lot of it stems from this racism that's in this city. The city's about 30,000 people. It's one of the biggest cities in Waydora, which is why it's a west wind. Chess Chaos, you know, as a Quidditch tournament. Let me get back to my camera here. That takes place at different venues each year, and this year that you guys are currently in, they decided to host it at Westwind. And use their sandy Quidditch pitch, this oval-like dome, almost like a gladiator arena, but shaped in an oval. And big tournaments where 64 of the best teams around Waydora compete. You're not sure which teams competed this year, but you know that it's a big deal. And they pretty much have this tournament that lasts days, weeks, until they have a winner. And so when the courier's talking about, you know, the Kraken attacked during the Chess Chaos tournament, you know that it must have been a big deal. And yeah, you hear Kraken attacking in Westwind, which is this desert city. You're like, you know, you're also having the same thoughts as the courier, like, how is that possible? He talks of this river that apparently they funneled the Kraken down. But anyways, so you know of the last remaining Emerald Enclave civilization to be in Westwind City. They kind of been forced backed into a corner, if you will. Moving on to Lord's Alliance, it is this collection of diplomats, higher up people. Most of them operate out of Northwind, being that Northwind is the capital of Waydora. The Lord's Alliance, you hear them talk about this whenever he says the real Lord's Alliance. You're not really sure what that means. You have, who rolled the highest? Who was it? 24? Okay. Calliope, perfect. Being that you are from Northwind, your memory's fuzzy, but it's almost as if hearing the words Lord's Alliance unlocked this memory or this feeling or something from your brain about an inner circle. Oh, did we freeze? An inner circle of the Lord's Alliance that is rumored to be corrupt. You're not really sure if it's widespread into the whole faction, but there's that. And then to speak of the Harpers, they're all about, you guys all know them as this faction that deals openly with social justice, taking down tyrannical government, down with the not anarchists or anything like that, but very justice driven, lawful people who want to see corrupt people put in their place or killed if they have to. They are constantly seeking out any and every faction and help, race, doesn't matter, people that can help bring down corruption. And you remember that the fraudulent emperor, the fake emperor that was a doppelganger, the Harpers had a operating cell that took them down. You're not sure, the operators kind of sometimes, for sake of, since they deal so much in politics, the Harpers don't always celebrate their own whenever they get someone down. They just, that the Harpers took them down. They don't really give names out for who took down the corrupt bad people, or else some of the minions of the bad people might go after them. So yeah, you recognize them from taking down the fake emperor. What was the last? So it was Emerald Enclave, Lord's Alliance, Harpers, and...
Anybody know anything about the prince? Prince Dingle Dingle Westwind? Does that name give us anything?
You know that Westwind's pretty racist, and it all stems from Prince Sharpword himself. You don't.
What's his name again? Prince Sharpword?
Sharpword, like sharp, like an edge, and then word, all one word, Sharpword.
I did roll a nat 20, so.
Yeah. So between the four of you, I'm giving like bits and pieces of information. Between the four of you, kind of collaborate, and you have a moment to kind of speak amongst each other and relay this to each other.
A lot of racism happening.
Yes.
A lot of racism.
You know that like after the racist emperor, fake emperor, was taken out of power, and like there's that big celebration when you guys started season 1, that big celebration around Waydora, Westwind was still kind of stuck in their racist ways that were going on for 12 years. They kind of enjoyed that time, and they never really left it.
Can I ask the Trayvon, can I ask him, does he know what the Duke's voice sounded like? Because he was apparently mute, so was there a time when he knew what the voice sounded like? Because otherwise, how is the client's voice going to...
We heard the client speak, didn't we?
Yes, we know it's the client.
Oh, true.
If the client was dressed up as the Duke was mute, so I'm going to ask Trayvon if he ever heard. Did you ever hear the Duke speak? Do you know? Because otherwise, how are you going to know that was?
It's been years since he's put on this charade. And now I know it to be true, that it is just that, a charade. That is 100% Sir Charles Cunningrow. His voice. Brothers, he claimed to be a mute, but that was to hide himself. He's a coward. So yes, he does.
Okay.
Recognize it.
Because otherwise it's not the indictment we think it is. It's not the slam dunk.
Yeah. You don't recognize Sharpword's voice, but in the actual monologue itself, in the dialogue itself, his name was mentioned. I think it was Yeah, sharp word. We are the 2 members within the alliance who have the best shot at becoming emperor. So he addresses him. So you have that proof that person A is sharp word, and then you have the proof from Trevok that person B is the client.
How is it normally decided who's emperor? Would we know this?
Say that again.
How is it normally decided who's emperor?
You know that there's an election coming up in Northwind. Up until this point, there was like the continent's been kind of in disarray. The land's been in disarray and a little bit of chaos. There's been a lot of celebrating, but a lot of chaos because now all these other powers at B, you know, kings from the Western land, dukes and charlatans from all over are now like, ooh, a void, let me fill it. And so there's been a lot of political turmoil. Being from Northwind, Calliope, you know that you know it as the capital of Waydora, and so you know that elections are held there. I say elections, it's not like a presidential election, but it's more of like a coming together and deciding who the emperor is in the time when they don't decide by bloodline. In which, in this case, there's no choice. They have to pick someone not in bloodline.
I'm gonna ask the courier and say, have you brought this evidence before to other courts, specifically to the High Court of Waydora?
I have not. I was directed to go here. My original... What was his voice like? My original plan of action was to go to Northwind, but I was redirected by the Harpers. Those of which the names I can't say, but I don't know what their decision-making process was, but this is where they sent me.
Do the Harpers have plans to take it to the High Court?
I don't know. I know that this isn't the only copy. They made several copies of this before sending me along in case something happened to me, but I made it and I've delivered the message, and I'm sure there's other couriers that might be going out soon. I don't know. I know that I was the first to leave.
I'm gonna ask the head dwarf on the council and just say, do you have means to get this before the High Court? Or is it a High Court or a High Council? I forget.
High Court of Waydora is in Northwind. The Council of Moradin is the doors you're talking to right now.
Okay, so I'll ask if they have the means to get this information before the High Court, especially to potentially look into the Lord's Alliance before any candidates are chosen and before any vote can take place.
We as a council stay out of the politics of the Lord's Alliance. We've been... with all these mixed races being in Eastwind, we've been questioned as to why we're not a part of it, but we have our ways, and they respect that. We will discuss the findings here as to what our next move is, whether we take it to the High Court or whether we bury it.
Why would you bury this? The politics of Waydora affect Eastwind directly.
Yes, some of the, as he says bury it, some of the other dwarves kind of look at him confused, almost like kind of the exact same reaction you guys are having.
Can I detect thoughts on him?
As it like a spell, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to read the rules of that to see if it's noticeable. Where's my cursor?
I look really concentrated all of a sudden.
pull out and just do this.
Yeah. Start playing a little ditty.
All of a sudden. Did the Harpers send it here first because they think something's wrong in Northlands to not send it
Well, they
directly
think
to the
that
council? Council's corrupt. And that's why they didn't send it there first and they sent it to Eastwind first.
Or they sent it here first because it pertained more here because they thought that the Duke was still in power.
Fair
So
enough.
it was more pressing.
That's true.
Or maybe he's not the only court.
Alright, so you know the initial thoughts right off the bat. You do need a copper piece for this, so mark that off your sheet.
Okay. Just one?
Just one copper piece. It is
Penny for your thoughts.
a penny for your thoughts. Charlotte!
Penny for your thoughts, by your inside.
They must have been
exactly what
thinking
they
that.
did.
They
Must have done that. Waiting
Yeah.
for when some random player was going to be like, oh my gosh, a penny for your thoughts.
Penny for your thoughts.
Okay, it's 2027. This video has 16,000 views on YouTube. Some developer is watching it and is like, finally! After 12 years! Someone gets my dad joke that I snuck in there. A penny, wow, okay.
That's the name of the episode.
A penny for your thoughts. Yeah, so you get these surface level thoughts of this dwarf. He is skeptical. He has just had a barrel full of information uncorked on him all at once. He's logical, thinking through every scenario. He's dealing with the fact that they lost their duke of their city. He's also, as you're detecting this thought about the thoughts that are lingering on the duke, he seems almost... You get a brief sensation of relief about the death of the duke. You can choose to probe further if you would like.
I want to probe further. Hell yeah. Baldric's like, what's that?
Alright. I have to make a wisdom saving throw. Do you change it to charisma?
You know I changed it to charisma.
What's your DC?
18.
I rolled pretty high. I would say, I'm just trying to see in my mind what his modifier is. I think he barely misses.
Baldric weasels her way. Literally standing there staring him dead in the soul right now.
Yeah. So you have, so he has failed his roll, and you kind of delve further as to what this sense of relief is all about. You hear thoughts about, it's more abstract. You don't hear like voices because they'd probably be in Dwarven. It's more abstract thoughts about and kind of picture thoughts of the Duke and how ever since his reign he's hated having a dwarf not in charge. He's very traditional. He's he has all his deepest want has always been having the bloodline of the Holder Hex restored, or at least some sort of Dwarven bloodline restored and crowned king over Eastwind, rather than a human duke from whatever land. You kind of thinks about the initial swearing in of the duke, I guess you could say, whenever, I'm trying to think how old the client is. Yeah, you probably wouldn't know that information as to when he came to power and how he came to power. You remember the war, the civil war that happened with the Durgar and the dwarves that eventually were driven into the Underdark and became Durgar. That civil war that happened, and how the dwarves had to get outside help, humans, elves, tieflings, gnomes, to help them drive these bad dwarves down. And at that point is kind of where that bloodline shift happened, because they kind of owed it to some of these people, and some of these people took advantage of this and you think the client
okay.
was one of them. So, with that said, he's always respected the client's rule. He's never really sensed corruption. But he's inclined to believe it, but also still weighing all his options, all the information. He doesn't know you guys. He just met you guys, but Trevok vouches for you, so there's a lot that he's weighing in his mind. And so when he says bury it, oh, did my music just stop? Okay, it's back. When he says bury it, that is in the event that you guys are the one that's lying and that you assassinated the Duke. So he's kind of playing worst case scenario in his head.
Okay.
So there you go. Failed wisdom save. Failed charisma save.
Baldrick's like, okay, we don't have to kill you today. Alright. Not murdering anyone in the council, I guess. Don't get any
Baldrick's
dwarf
hunting for them
teeth.
teeth.
I just want them teeth. Actually, my new season goal was to collect Prince Sharpwood's teeth in my special jar. And also to obtain a horn.
Obtain a what? No.
A battle horn.
No horn for Baldrick.
Gondor calls for aid.
There's a intelligence contest check that we need to roll at the end of the spell.
An intelligence?
Yeah, it's a check, not a save, so roll intelligence check.
21.
Alright. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much gave you all the information, so I would say since you won the contest, you are able to get out of there quickly before he realizes what's going on, before he detects you.
Just do a little stretch and yawn as I disengage from him.
Clearly, he didn't know how to put up his mental walls, and wasn't learned by Rhysand.
They didn't know how to do
Wasn't warded up.
Yeah, Rhysand didn't teach him how to.
I can still hear you utter shit in.
Yeah. Alright, so what do you do with all that information? There's a lot. Hope you took notes.
Okay. Alright, listen. Listen to me. I think no matter what, this is a bad situation. First of all, definitely sounds like the real Lord's Alliance. There's definitely gonna be...
Pause. We should take a potty break because Charlotte just ran to the potty. So, sorry, I don't want her to miss discussion. So before we discuss, hold that thought. Penny for your thoughts. We'll
Penny
be back
for
in
your
5
thoughts.
minutes. Back in 5 minutes.
Baldrick has an intent. Question. Do I need to know what someone looks like in order to send a message or like a sending spell to them, or do I just need to know like their name and of them?
I thought you had to
latter.
like know them.
I think the latter. I think you have to know them. You don't necessarily have to know what they look like. Let's see.
Good.
With a creature you are familiar. Okay, so like, for instance,
Prince Sharpwood.
Yeah, you are familiar with who that person is.
Good. Good. This is important.
Yeah.
I don't like where your brain's going with that.
I love it.
It's good. Just want to make sure.
Should we also get in contact with Theonor and Vengeance and let them know what's happened, or are we saying fuck
They
them?
can wait. It's clearly much too dangerous what they're doing for us to ever get involved with, so they can wait a second.
Yes.
We've just unearthed an entire plot for the whole of Waydora.
Who
But
wants to bet
clearly, what they're doing is more dangerous.
they show up and try to tell us everything we've already found out, and they're gonna think they're
They're trying to
so
take
cool.
any of the glory from it.
And be like, well, we found that out forever ago.
That sounds like something a man would do.
It do seem like man behavior. Also, I agree with what you said. about Northwind being potentially corrupt.
And
all
you guys
corrupt.
were- Well, yes, but the real Lord's lying. That has to be based.
But then what's the harm in sending them this message, you know? All it tells them is that we know. And then they know that we know.
Maybe the Harpers don't want to take their hand and let them know if that's their entire thing, is that
Well, they should have said something if that's the case.
we don't know how the Harpers do.
Let me tell you what I'm going to do.
I'm gonna send a message to Constance.
I am going to send a message to Strawwood. Don't you worry about that. It's definitely what I'm going to do. Aldrich's getting really fed up with all of these evil people not living in fear, clearly, and that man sounds very cocky.
All right, we all back. We all ready? Okay. We return to the info dump. Valdrick has just probed the mind of the Middledorf. You don't know his name yet. The Middledorf, and has learned some information. Got out of there real quick before he knew what was going on. He kind of, you see him flinch a bit, and it's the biggest flinch any sort of reaction you've seen from this dwarf so far. But kind of shakes it off, and
A lot of information being overloaded into that brain of yours.
yeah.
All right.
So the middle one says, "We must come to a decision. There are a lot of moving pieces here. A lot has happened. The death of our leader. The death of the leader of Westwind. An attack in our own city against our own people. The opening of the Underdark. First and foremost, we need a leader. Someone to lead us through this time of turmoil. The election at Northwind and the factions at play. And he turns and looks at Anya and says in Dwarven, "I receive your information, and I respect your bravery for what you've done. I will request your input on the matter before we make a final decision. I am between two decisions." And he continues this in common and says this to everyone else. "We either rule the five of us as a council, or we restore the Holderheck bloodline and crown Trevok king of Eastwind, his rightful rulership. What say you, Anya? If you were to cast a vote today, where would it be?"
Councils have more accountability, but they're slower to make decisions. Whereas one ruler can make decisions more quickly, but there's a lack of accountability. In my dealings with Trevok, he has been noble and upstanding. Trevok?
Yep. Bring
Okay.
your mic a little bit closer to your lips that I want to kiss. What?
What?
He said
Trevok.
that.
Trevok did.
Okay. Slow down, Trevok.
Whoa.
My vote would be to not make any immediate decision, but rather have an interim as the city mourns the explosion and also deals with the fact that they've all been led by someone who had ulterior motives. So my vote would be for an interim, and then you allow your people to decide. And so my vote would be to have Trevok as your leader, but he's also accountable to the council. So there's a bit of shared responsibility until the people can decide.
Kind of grunts, looks to his sides. Guards, bring out the sphere of decision-making. And these guards scurry off to this back room.
Yeah.
They wheel out this like wooden ball, just shaped in a sphere, and they roll it out right in front of the chairs. The 5 dwarves stand up, unsheath their great axes from their backs. If any one of you cast your vote to have Trevok Holderhecht act as king, at least until these times have subsided, until we can make a true decision, may you cast your vote by slicing the sphere of decision-making. I. And he takes his and slams it into the side. Wood splintering, leaves the axe straight in there. The sphere itself is probably 2 or 3 feet in circumference. Kind of stands back, and the dwarf on the far left pulls it out, swings it at the side again, does the same thing. The dwarf on the right pulls his axe out, and one by one, the 4 of them slam their axes and leave them into the sides of the sphere. Trevok then stands up, kind of looks at the sphere for a moment, pulls his axe out, and closing his eyes, slams down right in the middle, and the sphere splits and splinters in half. And they kind of look around at each other, proud of themselves, but as if this is some sort of tradition or ritual between the dwarves, or at least the 5 of them. And the middle dwarf says, "It is decided then. King Trevok Holderheck." And he bows, puts one arm up to his chest, bows and takes a knee. The other 4, or the other 3 dwarves bow, put one arm to their chest, take a knee.
Valdrick repeats the motion.
Yeah, the 10 guards also do this. So you hear them all in unison clank their bronze armor, their knee plates clanking to the stone floor, all at the same time.
Grounding.
Is that what the rest of you doing with Valdrick?
Follow involved.
Yeah, I would just awkwardly
I
follow
would
suit.
lower my head in deference, but I'm not a citizen, so I don't need to bow down to King Trevok.
Trevok, with one short, stubby dwarf arm, pulls his great axe out, sheaths it, and kind of nods around and says, "I believe a reward is in order for ye. At the start of this, you were told 50 gold pieces per person that you've brought back to us safely. You've brought back 16 alive, slightly beat up, but alive, citizens of Eastwind. To my count, that's 800 gold pieces, but 800 gold pieces does not sound like enough to me. I grant an extra 2,000 gold pieces as a bonus. 4 of our finest horses from the stables.
We're getting horses?
Proper sack of food, dried meats from the Luminara Plaza. And I seal this all as my duty as king. You may collect your earnings at Francois' Fabulous Fortunes in Luminara Plaza.
God, that sounds lovely.
And I seal it
Do we
with
get
the
to
official...
all have a moment where we just like, my horse looks like this?
We're only
Absolutely.
getting
Absolutely. He unfurls a... He actually motions for a guard as he's talking about this sealing and this sealed contract of approval or whatever. One of the guards runs back, grabs a piece of parchment and a candle from Giselle. A lit candle, brings it to Trevok. He pours some of the wax on this piece of parchment, writes down all of the rewards that he just told you, takes his circular ring, and stamps his sigil in the wax, sealing it, and says, "Take this to Francois. He will equip you with what you need. I have granted you these horses so that you may travel to Northwind. You understand that this beloved continent of Waydora, much of it rides on your shoulders. The Wenches of Waydora." And then the four dwarves around, "Aye! The Wenches of Waydora!" And they do this as they stand back up from kneeling.
This is really, it's really been a roller coaster of emotions today, but I do love that. That's fantastic. Question: do any of you happen to have a battle horn or war horn I can purchase off of you? Nice little horn. Oh. They look like men that would know battle equipment.
or at least where to
If-
buy one.
At least where to buy one.
Trevok kind of chuckles and scratches his beard. "I'm sure if Francois doesn't have one." Let me get the name before I say this sentence. "I'm sure if Francois doesn't have one, Berg and Starkshield of the Thunderhammer Armory can certainly whip you up one.
Lord.
There's, depending on the hunting parties around and what kind of creatures we've collected, I'm sure he has a horn from one of these exotic creatures he can forge into it. He works mostly in weapons and armaments, and metals and iron, but a horn is nothing to him. He's renowned for his work. But check
Can you-
Francois first.
Yeah.
He's a sneaky little bugger."
Let's go get our goodies. Oh no, yeah. Yeah, get our goodies. Oh wait, were you wanting us to go to Northwind and deliver this message to the High Council?
The High Court of Waydora.
The High Court of
That
Waydora,
is
yes. Yes,
the-
alright.
According to this courier, there may or may not be word out already making its way to Northwind and the High Courts. But on the off chance that they don't make it, I need to count on you to be there in person. Make your presence known. That no faction, not even the Lord's Alliance, are more important than the seat of the Emperor.
Hells yes.
There's been enough division in our beloved Waydora, Eastwind included. No more.
As daughters of Waydora, we will ensure that no further corruption takes place. And I hope that your majesty will have a benevolent and just rule.
Aye. And he bows lowly to you.
Baldric's looking at Anya like, who is this? Who's this person right now? So diplomatic.
A little Isolde coming out.
It's not Isolde, it's just Anya has a +3 to charisma, and she also has a +3 to intelligence. Like, she knows how to. Sometimes you need intimidation. Sometimes you need to
You
not.
know how to smooth your way through shit.
Yep. Sometimes you need to schmooze a high council. Sometimes you need to sleep with a dude and suck his blood all night in a
Sometimes
tavern.
you need to treat a hand like a Capri Sun. You know, you got to know your audience.
Sometimes you got a caprice on a hand.
Yeah.
You know,
Anya knows her audience.
Go forth and make this council proud.
I'm gonna do you so proud, buddy.
The two guards are slowly run out and grab the pieces of the wooden sphere that's left and are cleaning it as you guys are having this final hurrah and goodbye. It's just kind of wheeling it away.
Right, off to Francoise in Luminara.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot to stop for tonight. I think.
Can I do one thing before we stop?
Absolutely, you can.
I would like to send a message to Prince Sharpword.
That's our cliffhanger. I'm here for it.
He's
All right.
dead.
Prince Sharpwood?
Yeah, he's dead. Isolde killed him. And
I don't know
pretty
that.
sure- No,
I
didn't the
think-
courier?
I think
Courier
the
said that.
courier. I think the
Ah.
courier
Yeah.
did. I was gonna let you do it, but I think the courier did say. Let's see.
No, he died.
Many lives were lost before the Westwind military slayed the beast. Prince Sharpword was one of them.
Unfortunate.
He
So
did.
it's the top leaders to become
I can't get his
emperor
teeth then.
are both. I mean, you could go find his body and take his teeth. But
You are
Seems like
not
a lot of
missing
work.
Nope,
That
the
is
whole thing got
thousands of
flooded.
miles away.
Yeah, the
Westwind
tower
is
was destroyed.
Westwind is the farthest place from you right now, in this continent of Waydora. The absolute
I
farthest,
can't
thousands
get
of
his
miles.
Damn.
But yeah, cool, fun session, diplomatic.
Yeah, that was
we can do diplomacy.
that was the most diplomacy I think we've ever done.
Baldric just can't talk a lot for diplomacy.
Huh?
The Baldric just can't talk a lot for diplomacy.
Let's see.
I think the only there wasn't much rolling tonight. I think I should have made Anya roll for when they were talking about how they should elect. But either way, not much rolling,
Big
but a lot
game
of
face.
speaking. I liked it.
Big diplomacy night.
Yeah, big
Make
diplomacy
your most
night.
diplomatic faces.